job was bad. I had to suffer through the misery of herpes on my job. Yeah, when I was 25, I worked for a pharmaceutical company and I did clinical research. Our dream was to reduce the torture in the crotchal region of our patients. My job was to go out into the field and make sure everything's on the up and up. And in particular, I was looking at the case report forms to make sure that we were clearly documenting the expression of this disease in all of our patients. The way we did this is we had diagrams, 8.5 by 11-inch diagrams. They were kind of crude, but the anatomical detail was enlarged so you could really see what was going on. And the idea was that the investigator would examine the patient and then draw on the diagrams exactly where the herpes sores were. And so we had two kinds of forms. We had the guy kind and we had the girl kind. And the guy kind was really interesting. Because the girl kind was pretty much just what you would expect. It was the splayed, spread eagle, bird's eye view down the birth canal shot. But for the guys, there was like a bunch of poses. So, first of all, you had just the straight up frontal, full frontal, kind of like the gonads. But then there was this portrait, kind of like a profile shot, a little more of a formal picture, I think, kind of like a salute. And then my boss was the medical director for this thing, and he had designed these diagrams, and he felt we needed this third picture, an inset picture down in the bottom right-hand corner. And honestly, I took a look at that. I thought I had no idea there were two kinds of guys. The guy there had all the same equipment, the same stuff. It was all, there, but that guy, whoever posed for that diagram, hadn't had, any little snip. So, my boss and I went down to visit the investigator to see what was going on with the patients, and we also had to visit the bench scientist, a virologist who was studying herpes in the lab, and I'm not kidding. His name was actually Dr. Spotswood Spruance. And it escaped me at the time, but his nickname was Woody. So Woody and I and my boss, Dr. Frank, hung around the lab talking about the life cycle of the herpes virus. It starts out as this itchy red papule, it becomes a pustule, and then goes on to develop into a crustule, and then eventually this sort of flaming, erupting volcanic boil that's shedding herpes virus all over America. And it had a very exciting life cycle. And so after that, we were kind of hanging out outside, the three of us sort of yucking it up about the life and times of the herpes virus. And I hear this rhythmic sucking noise in the background, kind of like a mechanical pumping sound. And of course, Woody's thrilled to take us in the lab and show us exactly what he has going on in there, because he's got this contraption he's built that is indeed the source of this noise. And it's a fixed rod with a red rubber flange on it. The flange has a hole in the middle, and there are these flaps kind of coming down on top of it. There's a rubber tubing that's piping in this kind of gooey, liquidy thing that's smearing down the front of it. And then there's this trolley, and on the trolley, there's a piston, kind of a plunger thing, with a condom on it, and the thing is moving back and forth. It's actually moving back and forth and into the hole in the red rubber flange, and it won't stop. The thing will not stop. I mean, it is pumping relentlessly, and the red rubber, there is no hope for this red rubber flange. I mean, she's getting pounded. And so, obviously, Woody is attempting to discover whether or not the herpes virus can transfer from the one individual to another in light of the fact that there's a Trojan in the way. And so on the ride home on the flight, I am sort of, setting out my diagrams on my tiny little tray table, and people are peeking over my shoulder and no doubt asking themselves, what in the world is she doing? when it occurs to me that the real misery in this job is not about the disease, it's really about the way the whole thing ended, because it ended very poorly. I mean, the project was moving along swimmingly. In fact, it was moving along exactly the way you would hope it would. In fact, it was kind of picking up steam a little bit. It was even getting kind of close to being completely done. We were getting there, we were getting really close, really close, and then it ended abruptly because the competition beat us. We had to pull out. The whole thing was very unsatisfying. Thank you.